Okay. So I know that some of this or a lot of this, some folks might miss just simply because I'm not waiting as long for folks to get in. But I'll go ahead and keep it as a recording on my different platforms. That being said, just something that I wanted to share just out of my life. And, just kind of something personal as well as something real that I felt the need to get out this morning. But yeah, so um, recently we found had some well, I guess part of the struggles and part of the job of being a parent. Um, had some issues with my son, and he had gotten into some things that he shouldn't have. Which, my boy is 10, and that's kind of one of the things about having a kid, a young man. But that being said, I was at work when I found out about this. So, you know, probably, with kind of what happened, it was probably a good thing that I was at work because I did have a chance to kind of think about it and strategize how to address it, how to handle it. But that being said, you know, in that it allowed me to um, really think about and really get into how to do so. Well, it it um, kind of brings me slash brought me back to uh, back when I was back when I was getting married, and my pastor at the time, uh, in our marital counseling, asked both of us, my wife and I, what our thoughts were on discipline. And another good time to where she got to go first and allowed me to think about it while she was talking. But in when I did respond, you know, to be honest, it was kind of a self realization moment as I was talking. But what I told him, I'm like, well, discipline is simply a teaching tool, and discipline is supposed to, uh, you know, well, first of all, it's supposed to have a point to it in correction, um, getting people back to, or getting your children back to. I guess if we're going to speak the truth and back to this video on the point of it, but steering your children back to righteousness. That's the entire point of discipline, and of course with especially our culture and our history, um, we I think a lot of us we've lost that for one is the point of what discipline is for. First of all, it's not something to get anger, but and going back to the foundations of where a lot of that came from, and it is slavery. Our captors, where a lot of that came from, and that mentality, which kind of which is part of the reason for the video, which is making sure that that we understand and realize and get away from that background and that way of thinking of discipline is just something a way we can get away from our anger or let off some steam or so on and so forth, and make sure that we're using it as a teacher. First and foremost, okay, I think there has to be some initial. So the way the discipline works as well is if there was some teaching originally on the front end. So, but getting back to yesterday, with my son, he had his issues, so I came home and had one of those dad talks that I know back in the day when I was on the other end of them, I used to hate. But the truth of the matter is, they are 100% necessary. So before, let's just call it the rod of discipline happened, we literally had a 45-minute to an hour conversation in talking about it, in which I literally asked my son. I got into the details. It's like, what happened, what went down, why, all of that. And because this is not a new thing, he was able to articulate, and he knew he was wrong. In that, I was able to. Looks like I guess my connection isn't the best right now, so hopefully, you guys are. My connection obviously isn't the best, so hopefully you guys are getting the gist of this. But yeah. So in my teaching, what I talked to him about was righteousness, and he even explained to him what righteousness is. I'm like, hey, I talked to him. I'm like, righteousness. I'm like, doing what is right, and on a very basic level, and to be honest, on a very real level, that's what righteousness is. And one of the things that I talked to him about was, I brought personal level on this. And so I'm like, hey, righteousness feeds into your reputation, is where your reputation comes from. And of course, he's a 10-year-old. I'm using big words. He's like, what is that? What is your reputation? I'm like, well, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm like, hey, I'm at work. I had so I work tech support, if you don't know. And, for the first year at this company, and to be honest, the previous 3.5 years, and to be honest, for a while, a lot of my support was over the phone. But in that, I told him, I'm like, hey, well, there was a time, and actually a few times, a couple times, to where, people complained about me, basically saying that, I didn't treat them well, or I was this or that on the phone. And it's only happened a couple of times, let's just say that. But in that, in having that conversation, or in that, them going to like my manager or supervisor, my manager and supervisor pretty quickly came to my back. Why was that? Because they've seen how I work. They have seen how I talk to people. The way that I am in basic conversation with people at work is the way that I am in basic conversation with people at home, is the way that I am in conversation with people at in the store that I meet. I am how I am all the time, and it is my reputation. I've developed a reputation because people have seen that I am how I am all of the time. And so when you think about that, on a biblical perspective, but even on a personal perspective, that's definition what righteousness is. Someone who has a reputation of lying. Someone who's a liar. Okay, and if they have a reputation of being a liar, and someone accuses them of being a liar, not very many people are going to come to their back when it comes down to, someone accusing them. If an accuser accuses them of lying, their reputation will precede them. In the same way, on the other hand, if someone has a reputation for righteousness. If someone has a reputation of telling the truth, or someone has a reputation of, well, just righteousness, let's say that, and then they are accused of unrighteousness, or they're accused of something that is out of their character, a lot more people will have their back. And so in that, I was able to get to talking to him about the breastplate of righteousness, which again is something that I've talked to him about before. But this was a perfect situation to make it real. And going back to, we talked about the shield of faith, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of the spirit, and so on and so forth. And but this was a way to make it real, because of course, hey, the shield of faith is great. Your faith is always a good thing, and it's one of your most important defensive weapons. But sometimes when you realize that it's time to put up your shield, and something might catch you off guard. Well, if you have your shield to the left blocking something that you see there, and something comes from your right and you ain't ready for it, well, you better have that breastplate there, ready for that attack. If you don't have your breastplate on, then you get caught slipping. Which is why Paul, when he's talking in Ephesians 6, he says, "Put on the full armor of Yah." And yeah, always keep on your full armor, because that's how you stand the attacks of the enemy. And so in that, I mean, an awesome teaching moment. It was great because my son was then able to see it in a very real sense, such as in those situations to where people were complaining about me. I didn't expect it to happen. I didn't realize it was coming, but my breastplate of righteousness protected me in that situation. And so I know, when a lot of people teach the Bible, they discount righteousness. Look, let's say first, High doesn't discount righteousness. He talks all throughout the Bible righteousness. And so in that thought this morning, that's what I had. That's what I had. Make sure that we're putting on our righteousness, so that first of all, our reputation will precede us, and that it protects you even when you aren't ready for an attack. So that's all I got this morning. Love you guys. Have a good one.